Hello and greetings. Welcome back to another Perspectives, and this is number 52. And I'm quite surprised that I got this far. I really did not have any kind of goal in mind when I started. I just thought I'd talk about things that fall across my radar, and I didn't think that I would be this chatty either. Not really has been my modus operandi, but times change, and I appreciate you kind souls out there who've been sending in some comments and encouraging me to keep on. I don't know how far I get, but the good thing about when you start something with no great agenda in mind, that you have no expectations. So you can only, I suppose, pass your expectations because you didn't start with any. And the best things in life, I think, develop organically. So I don't have anything in mind of where to take this. I know one or two people have suggested or commented, should I make this into a podcast? I'm not really sure what is the great difference, because this seems to be similar to a podcast, only that it's not available in audio, just video. So it's not on other streaming sites to listen as an audio. And I guess a podcast is more organized, and maybe you bring on people to speak with. And so I don't know. If anybody has any thoughts on that, please share them below. I'll be keen to read that. But I've kept this very casual because I know a podcast has to be more organized. And I really, I have been asked again by a friend saying, do you make notes for these talks? And really, no. Sometimes I have one or two words jotted down to remind me of what I want to talk on, but no more than that. And this time I have one or two words jotted down because this is quite scatty, this talk. But generally, no, I just go out and speak about what's on my mind and see where it takes me. If I had to do the recording again, for example, the recording was a dud, didn't record well, I would say different things. I would say the general things the same, but I would say them in a different way, because I don't say the same thing twice. I don't really say the same things twice, I don't think. So anyway, the theme this time is asymmetrical. And this really is a talk based on what passes my radar, because it's a culmination over the things which have passed my radar in the last 2 days. And I wasn't sure if I was going to be making this video, because I had nothing formulated, no kind of great one thing to say or one thing to focus on. But I think it's also quite significant that the things that have passed my radar in the last 2 days have all been connected. And so I'm going to talk about these and just offer some thoughts on them. And, we can make of it what we will and see if they have any interest. But it's connected with the theme of human nature and technology, which I think is one of my predominant themes, and also one of the predominant themes of our human culture at this time. Now, this started off by 2 days ago. I watched a video interview with Dr. Ian McGilchrist, which those of you who are familiar with his work, he wrote the book The Master and His Emissary, about the brain functioning of two hemisphere, left and right hemisphere functioning of the brain. And it became very popular, and he speaks very well on the subject of how human brain cognition and the patterns of thinking influence our society, which he thinks, by the way, is more or less going down the way of the toilet because of what we talked about before, the vulgarity of culture, the tyranny, the cancel culture nature. And he has a new set of books which I haven't read, called The Matter with Things. And I'll leave the link to the interview below. And it's a very, I think, very interesting interview, also because of the eloquent way he speaks. And he said a few points. He said one point, So out of all the brains that they scientifically have analyzed, and they've analyzed all brains of all animals, reptiles, insects, mammals, even going back to the earliest brains, the ganglia, the proto-brains, McGilchrist says that they all show asymmetrical organization, and they have a type of left-right differentiation. So all organic brains are asymmetrical, and this allows them to operate in this environment, which is of course an environment where you need a left brain functioning to focus on something. So if you're focusing on hunting or food, you need to focus on a specific goal-orientated action, whereas the right part of the brain allows a kind of more 360 observation. So for example, if you're hunting or going for food, you need to have a part of your brain perceiving the environment around you to make sure that you are not going to be prey to another hunter. You are not going to be attacked. You have to realize your environment. So it's a contextual awareness with be able to focus on a specific task. And so all organic brains are asymmetrical. And that allows them to survive and evolve in this uncertain asymmetrical reality, you could say. Another interesting thing he said was that that out of all the animal species, the primates had the most brain capacity, that is the most neuronal specification, neuron specified on one function, which is called the inhibitory neurons, inhibitory function. Out of all the animals, the primates have the most brain capacity and focused on that. But out of the primates, the humans have the most brain capacity focused on that. And he said 19% of all human brain neurons are inhibitory neurons. And he made a comment saying that resistance and negation can therefore be a part of human evolution, because inhibitory neurons are inhibitory, certain things, behavior, actions, they're a type of negation. So that type of resistance, he says, for humans, it obviously has an evolutionary function. So resistance and negation is somehow a part of a human evolution, which connects back to an earlier talk I did about conscious forces and how passive and active and negation as well as construction are all part of the forces which help a human being to evolve in that environment. So I thought that was interesting. Another comment he made was that at the moment humans are living in their fantasy, a fantasy world that they're constructing. But what's happening at the moment is that we could be entering into a point of civilizational overreach. When a civilization gets more complicated and starts to overreach itself and grasp for more and more, then in order to survive as a functioning civilizational organism, it needs to be able to deal with that highly complex organization, which tends to result in a more kind of sequential, analytical way of organization. To deal with the complication and complexity, two different things, you need a more sequential, analytical type of organization. And that's when a society becomes less organic and more analytical, more organized, and then that can lead to its downfall. So those points, I think, let's bear those points in mind as I go on to the next video. Interestingly, at the same time, after watching that video, I watched an interview with a guy called Andrew, I've written down actually, Andrew Bustamante, or Andrew Bustamante, who claimed to be a CIA super spy or ex-spy. The video, I can leave the link below. He's been interviewed for 2.5 hours. I've only watched 40 minutes of it so far, mainly because of the interviewer's style. But one of the things he said was that the CIA is very highly focused on understanding human psychology. And they understand that there are 3 parts of the psychology of a human being, 3 growth spurts. One is between the age of 0 to 7 years. And in that time of 0 to 7 years, the human child absorbs everything and accepts everything, accepts the reality of everything. You tell a child of 4 years old, this is it, they'll believe you. And that's when they're so porous and they absorb everything. The second stage is between 7 and 13. At that stage, he says that the child is still absorbing everything, but now it's learning to discern and accept some parts and not accept others. Absorbing everything, but not agreeing on everything. Is when you start to learn your discernment. And the third stage is between 13 and 25. And between 13 and 25, that's when the human being, the human person, starts to crystallize their beliefs, their opinions, their ways of thinking. That's when they kind of accept them and crystallize them, which is also the optimum time of human conditioning and programming, because you're going through school, education, college, you have access to your peers, you have access to so much of the media, and so that's when you get conditioned and crystallized. And he said that if a CIA operative wants to know about a person, they study the years between 13 and 25, and they know that those beliefs that are inculcated or adopted in those years are most likely going to define that person because of two things. One, a person is very, very unlikely to change their belief systems and their thinking patterns after the 25 years of age. Very highly unlikely to relearn and readapt or shift your thinking patterns. And the second thing is that human nature after that age is highly predictable. We may think we're diverse and highly unique people, but our behavior patterns are highly predictable, especially after that age of the conditioning. Interesting there. So that goes on to brain patterns. Now let's get on to technology. Yesterday, after watching these videos, I watched a third video, and it was an interview with Jaron Lanier. And those people who know Jaron Lanier, he's known as the inventor or creator or innovator of virtual reality. He is high up and well known in the tech industry. He's currently working for Microsoft, although he seems to work on a freelance basis. But he's highly critical of technology. But he works in the industry as well. And he did write a book a few years ago by saying 10 reasons why everyone should drop their social media and should basically cancel their social media. So it's highly critical of these certain forms of technology. And what he was saying about AI is that he thinks that at the moment AI is being mythologized. And everybody's talking about the dangers of AI. And I'll get into this subject next because this is how it connects. So I'm connecting left and right brains here. The human part, the technology part. And he said that the AI is being mythologized, and that's why it's been seeming to be dangerous, because everyone's saying like this will be the new God, the new power. And he says that we have to demythologize it and realize that it's not actually creating original creative thought. It's more like it's creating amalgams. It's like a mashup. It goes out there and gets all the data according to its programmed algorithms and its vectors of program. Goes out there and gets all the information and amalgamates it and mashes it up. It can mash up song lyrics. It can even mash up visuals to create a picture. But it's like a mashup. And it seems intelligent because we're anthropomorphizing it. We think just because it's mashed up all this information, it's intelligent. And this, I think, also goes back to what I said in the last video, infantilism, the difference between information and knowledge. Just because you can gather information doesn't make it knowledge. So he said that. And then yesterday, the day after I watched these videos, I was watching a video of an interview from MIT speaking with Geoffrey Hinton. And Geoffrey Hinton has been on the news a lot in the last few days because he's seen as the godfather of AI, because he was one of the people who spearheaded the research into, I don't know, backdoor engineering. I think I'm not overly aware exactly what he did, but engineering the way to create the learning of AI, let's say. And he just, I think last week, resigned from Google in order to be able to speak out against the dangers of AI, rather than, obviously, it's a bit contradictory working for Google and then, speaking out against it. And this is a guy who was pivotal in creating the pathways of learning for AI. And he's been in the business for a long time. He's considered one of the godfathers of AI, actually saying that he now believes, after all these years, he believes that AI is a threat. Before, he didn't believe that was so. He believed it was not around the corner, too far off. Now he says he does believe that they are a threat because of their ability to think. And they don't think like us. They don't. And this is where I'm putting on what I said about Ian McGilchrist. Organic brains are asymmetrical. AI brains or programming are not asymmetrical. What he did question was he's not sure if AI has internal reasoning. And I would rephrase that as self-reflection. It can act on data, but can it dream? Now, this is a question I'm bringing because these technologies are sucking up all the data that we have in the human domain. All the data that's fed to them, and now they're more or less, the programs are let loose on the internet to collect all our data. What we put out in these videos, social media, all data, all television, all media, everything that's digital, it's soaking up to learn from it. Now we talk about dreams, but we can't translate into data the dreams we have in our heads, the self-reflection. So the human being can actually leave our reality domain, even if it's only in our imaginations or in meditation. But there's a part of us, a part of our inner self, we can call it the inner mind or cognition. We can leave this reality. We can dream of going to Venus and meeting beautiful looking aliens, whatever is your dream. We can dream these things. We can dream of a future whereby humanity is going out into the galaxy. We can dream of so many things. And that's what is the human capacity, is to dream. So we actually can exist outside of our reality bubble. But can AI? Because all the data it's being fed to it is from within the bubble. So can it make that leap from taking the data from inside this reality that it is within as well? Can it perceive that there is an outside reality? There's something greater. There's the imaginal realm. I've talked about in my work the difference between the lesser reality and the greater reality. I've talked about this reality we live in, this consensus reality, as the lesser reality. But beyond that, in a metaphysical sense, there's a greater reality. All the mystics and the philosophers have talked about this, that there's, Plato called it the realm of pure ideas, and this is the realm of the archetypes. This is the realm of the shadows or the secondary forms, all different ways of talking about it. But this is a realm that could be seen as a reflection of a greater reality. But does AI know that? If this is reality for AI, then it's already contained. So that's the thought I had. And just as I was watching that video from Jeffrey Hinton, I got a beep, and I saw that I had an email from a good friend of mine in America, and they sent me a link saying, you know, this worried me, this video, and this it's on AI. I was concerned about this. Can you look at it and give me your thoughts? And I haven't watched the video yet, but it's an interview with I have his name, Eliza Yudkowsky, who's a critic of AI. And I thought, that's interesting. I'm watching the video on Jeffrey Hinton talking about the dangers of AI, and this beep comes through about someone sending me a link to the dangers of AI. So I'm connecting them and sharing them. So I haven't watched the video, so I can't comment on that, and I think it's too much to actually bring all this in and comment on all these videos. But my friend did send me a link to an article the same guy, Eliza Yudkowsky, read and was published recently in Time magazine. Not that I read Time magazine. And I'm only going to look at one part, but there's just one thing. I mean, I've skimmed the article, but I just wanted to put this one through. He said, this is a line he said, if somebody builds a too powerful AI under present conditions, I expect that every single member of the human species and all biological life on Earth dies shortly thereafter. Ooh. So these are some, and this guy, again, is a big player. He's well known. I'm reading his bio. He leads a research at the Machine Intelligence Research Institute. He's been working on a line in artificial general intelligence since 2001 and is widely regarded as a founder of the field. So, another big hitter. So, we had these big hitters. Jeffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI. Eliza Yudkowsky, a big figure in there. And more, of course, because a lot of people just signed the 6 month, the letter, open letter for a 6-month moratorium on AI research. So I'm connecting this with the video on Ian McGilchrist. The human brain is asymmetrical. AI intellect, I don't think it's intelligence, it's intellect, is not asymmetrical, and it doesn't work the same way our brains work. But at the moment, it seems to me that what we are doing as humans is projecting our nature onto the AI. Why would the AI necessarily want to destroy all humanity? All biological life thereafter shortly dies. Why? There's some arguments that it'll just want more resources. It'll just want control and power. It'll just want to be the dominant form. Why? Because that's what humans have been doing. It doesn't think like us. That could be an advantage, you know. And they're saying it's going to be super intelligent. Well, super intellectual. The efficiency, the ability to deal with data is not the same as having knowledge or intelligence. And certainly not being. And I talked before, again in the last perspectives, about how there's influences in our reality. Let's call them influences A, that we get from the world around us and the data around us and our life experience. And then there's another type of influences, let's call them influence B, that come in from beyond our reality, what I refer to as metaphysical impulses. These could be impulses to try to nudge the human being into growth, into evolution, maybe there's the greater reality is trying to seed ideas into human civilization. And we get these ideas coming in, which also are seeded in our media and books and art and culture. Inspiration. Where does human inspiration come from? Some of it undoubtedly is seeded by the muses. What are the muses? Metaphysical influences from outside our reality. Now, can machines have inspiration? Can machines be connected to the muses? Can the machines pick up metaphysical influences outside of their reality if they are don't have a threshold between this reality and beyond reality. If they don't have a metaphysical understanding, everything is physical, then metaphysical influences don't exist for them. So there's all these questions, and the asymmetrical human brain is something very unique because not only is it a processor, it's also an antenna. And consciousness is primary in the cosmos and in the universe and in all things. Matter is a different state of consciousness, let's say a denser state of consciousness. The human brain acts as an antenna. It receives the consciousness field and processes it. The AI intellect, is it an antenna? If it is an antenna, can it work in the same way? So I think there are fundamental differences between the human asymmetrical brain and the intellect of AI or an artificial intellect and algorithms. Now there's one argument that Geoffrey Hinton makes by saying it's going to be super clever and super intelligent because it can learn billions of things at the same time. If one part of the AI learns something and it's connected to millions or billions of other units, every unit learns at the same time, a collective understanding, where humans can't pass on their understanding to another person unless they go through a whole lifetime of training and education or apprenticeship. But just because you can share a piece of data between billions of units doesn't make you intelligent. If everybody's going in the wrong direction, doesn't make them right. So I think there's a confusion of quantity with quality. But just of the speed and efficiency of this information doesn't make it able to give meaning and purpose and knowledge. When we humans receive a piece of information, we tend to strip it down. Does it have meaning for me? Is it useful for me? Can I learn from it? Can this information give me purpose? When an AI, artificial intellect, looks at data, when it looks at a picture, does it know how to appreciate beauty, harmony? It's been told what are the vectors of harmony, but harmony is beyond vectors. Does it know how to be impacted by music, by a songbird, by the scent of a flower? There's so many things we can go on and on and on. And I think there's a danger here of projecting the human, anthropomorphizing the human onto our creation, because that's what we do, We are in the image of God. We think we've been, we have this construct. We were created in the image of God, so we think like God, and everything we create thinks like us. And that's not so. And we're not dealing with an organic construct. This will go on to another question I may deal with later about 99.9% of the universe apparently is inorganic, according to the latest plasma research. That's another subject. But for now, we're dealing with the organic brain and metaphysical influences, which I feel cannot be projected onto the AI. And going back finally to what Ian McGrew-Christ said, he said, we are living in a fantasy at the moment. And perhaps part of that fantasy is that we're projecting everything onto these constructs, external constructs. And the last thing he said was, one of the things he said was, when a civilization overreaches itself, it becomes overly analytical. That's exactly where we're going now. And it's the machines that are emphasizing that analytical nature. And if we're putting everything over to the machinic mind, machinic intellect, we are thus actually expanding the analytical, no asymmetrical, the analytical sequential nature of our society, our environment, and our future, and that itself could lead to our downfall. Not technology wanting to kill all biological life, but organic, creative, asymmetrical, creative, imaginative life being recalibrated to a sequential, linear, over-analytical, over-rational human reality construct. I think this has been one of my longest talks. Forgive me, or allow me, and thanks for listening thus far if you got here, and I think I'll call it a day there. And remember that the earth is beneath our feet, so therefore let us stay grounded and stay well. Until next time. Cheers.